In front of Jurgen's general store, a group gathers to try a new beverage. Inside the cafe, the white-haired bartender prepares something special for the blonde customer sitting at the table. He hands her the glass and asks her to give it a try. The bartender confidently assures her that this is his masterpiece. The dark-colored drink looks nothing like the coffee she usually drinks, but that does not matter to her. She's determined to try it anyway, no matter how delicious the drink might be. She has already decided what she is going to do. She intends to bring bitter tears to the eyes of that arrogant plebeian with a merciless critique. She raises the glass to her lips. The bartender watches closely, waiting for her reaction. The instant the liquid touches her tongue, something changes. She lets out a gasp of surprise. The flavor is incredible. In disbelief, she can barely comprehend what she has just tasted. The bartender smiles, satisfied with the result. He claims that this is unlike any drink she has ever tasted in her life. Perplexed, she wonders what exactly he just made her drink. Still holding the glass, she finally asks for the name of the beverage. She asks whether it really is not coffee. The bartender confirms that it is not. He declares that this is his absolute masterpiece, freshly created. He proclaims that this is the drink that will begin a complete revolution in Britannia's culinary culture. And then he reveals the name. The scene shifts to the Kingdom of Britannia 3 months earlier inside the royal palace. 2 maids walk through the palace corridors. One of them notices something and suddenly becomes startled. A young man with dark hair gazes out at the scenery through a window. The maids immediately recognize him. It is Lord Hanbin. Overwhelmed with excitement, they become thrilled at seeing the legendary hero of Britannia from such a close distance. They comment that he looks as elegant as ever. But behind his slender appearance lies another truth. His true nature is revealed. On the battlefield, he is the knight who single-handedly slaughtered apocalypse-class monsters on the front lines of the demon realm. In addition to his overwhelming military strength, Hanbin is also an alchemical genius. He has reached the level of material creation, something everyone once considered an impossible myth. At the same time, he is a brilliant inventor and a visionary urban planner. And on top of all that, he is a legal scholar who completely reformed the kingdom's flawed justice system. It is no exaggeration to say that all the prosperity Britannia enjoys today comes directly from the hands of Lord Hanbin. The maids wonder how a single man could possibly be so perfect. According to the rumors, he was voted the #1 man everyone wanted to date, at least among the royal maids who have far too much free time. A third maid wearing glasses suddenly appears ominously behind them. She interrupts her colleague's little fan club. Seriously, she comments that Hanbin is collecting the affection of countless women as if he were running an emotional pyramid scheme. She calls him a truly terrifying man. Hanbin greets her, saying that she has arrived. He addresses her as Miss Fontaine. She introduces herself as Lily Fontaine, a 4th-grade secretary. As usual, she greets the Minister of Internal Affairs. Hanbin reveals his true position. He is the Minister of Internal Affairs. Just as the maids had been discussing after saving Britannia, he ended up being shackled to a position burdened with enormous responsibilities. He is known as the hero who saved the kingdom, but there is one fact that nobody around him knows. Hanbin reveals that he was actually a modern South Korean citizen who worked as a food development researcher. That was before he was suddenly thrown into this fantasy world and forced to face every kind of hardship imaginable. He admits that this office already feels like his second home, but after spending such a large portion of his life building the kingdom, he feels that he has finally earned the right to rest. He decides to request a 1-week vacation. His plan is to travel freely and focus on his own personal goals. Lily appears, bringing him some coffee. She suggests that they talk while he drinks it. Hanbin gets the feeling that something is about to go wrong. Lily asks if there is something wrong with the coffee. He says no and thanks her. She suggests that they move directly to the first item on the agenda. Lily announces that Lord Hanbin's vacation request has been officially rejected. Hanbin chokes on his coffee in shock. He questions what right she has to block his request. Lily replies that if he's questioning her qualifications, then she certainly has them. He asks what exactly those qualifications are. She declares that the two of them are in a relationship in which they spend every night together, including tonight, of course. Hanbin asks her to stop calling unpaid overtime a relationship. He teases her, asking what she will do if strange rumors start spreading throughout the palace. She tells him that he does not need to worry about that, because even if the Minister of Internal Affairs becomes a bachelor who lost his chance to marry because of ridiculous rumors, she, Lily, will always remain by his side. He remembers the promise he made to his grandparents that he would always stay by their side. Hanbin argues that he has worked himself to the bone for that kingdom and deserves to rest for a single week. Lily asks him to simply listen to her. She declares that the more they suffer and struggle, the more gloriously Britannia shines. Then she asks what happens if he takes an entire week off. According to her, that would mean the nation's progress would be delayed by exactly the same proportion. Hanbin asks whether she can actually hear herself talking. He acknowledges that she is a workaholic driven purely by patriotism. But Lily says that she understands how exhausted he must be, so she has a proposal. She explains that although she cannot grant him the time off, she has prepared a special and delicious meal for him. Hanbin begs her seriously to just give him the damn vacation. Suddenly, he notices a strange smell. He recognizes it immediately. That is the work of someone with a deep understanding of gastronomy. The royal chef finally reveals his true skills. The dish is unveiled, an eel pie. Hanbin stares at the dish in horror. He screams internally in despair. Taking advantage of the distraction, Hanbin silently escapes while the chef walks away. Lily celebrates in relief. She reveals that the whole thing was nothing more than a little malicious prank. In reality, she had already officially approved Hanbin's vacation. Furthermore, she plans to use her own vacation to accompany him. She has even already reserved a luxury villa at their destination. Lily eagerly looks forward to seeing the priceless expression on Hanbin's face when he finds out. Excited, she heads to his office, anticipating a dramatic surprise. But when she opens the door, she finds the room empty, with papers flying through the open window. On the desk, a note awaits her, held down by a stone. The note reads, "I am resigning from my position as Minister of Internal Affairs. Don't bother looking for me. Hanbin Ainsworth." Lily lets out a scream of disbelief. Meanwhile, beneath the full moon, Hanbin flees across the city rooftops, leaving everything behind. Hanbin knows that Lily will do perfectly fine without him. After all, she's the finest elite administrator in the entire kingdom. He reflects on how ever since arriving in this world, he has experienced and revitalized countless aspects of it. But there is one thing that still fills him with profound disgust: the absolute state of the local culinary culture. Due to the lasting effects of the long war, the idea that meals exist only to absorb nutrients has spread throughout the entire kingdom. This caused culinary culture to plummet into a genuine dark age. Hanbin remembers that back in South Korea, he was a formally recognized food researcher and the winner of a culinary innovation award. The memory makes his blood boil with anger. He reflects that if even the royal palace serves food at that level, he cannot even imagine how terrible things must be for ordinary people. He had tried pointing out the problem several times, but nobody noticed. It was completely useless. Originally, his plan for the vacation had been to travel around the country and hunt for hidden culinary gems. But faced with all of this, he changes his mind. The time has finally come to fulfill his ultimate dream, one he has kept hidden for a very long time. Hanbin pours water over his own head, preparing himself. His energy begins to manifest, triggering an intense transformation. His hair and appearance completely change. His eyes take on a different brilliance. A new identity takes shape. He transforms. He is now a white-haired man dressed as a bartender. Hanbin declares his mission: to awaken humanity's primordial curiosity about gastronomy. Your goal is to awaken that curiosity not only in Britannia but throughout the entire world. 3 months pass. Hanbin, now living under his new identity, quietly works washing glasses in his own bar. He has finally opened his establishment, ready to begin his culinary revolution. 3 months have passed since the shop opened, but business is still slow. Hanbin wonders if the business is going badly again today. 2 regular customers walk past the cafe. One of them comments that the place is still completely dead. The scene flashes back. 3 months ago, a man named Jurgen opened this same cafe in the city of Nortalis. At the grand opening, he served coffee to everyone, claiming that it was unlike anything they had ever tasted. But the actual result was very different from the promise. The 2 men remember that day. One of them asks if the other also drank that stuff. The answer is straightforward: it was garbage. They mock the strange name of the drink, calling it something pretentious. They complain that it tastes far too bitter. They also complain about the size of the cup, saying it is far too small to be satisfying. The memory shifts to Jurgen, excitedly showing off his coffee machines. He had hoped that if people liked the coffee, they would buy his equipment. The men scoff, saying that the machine wouldn't even be worth its scrap value. Jurgen hears everything and becomes irritated. He reveals that he can hear every single word they are saying. And so the truth behind that project is revealed. The plan to create the Starbucks of another world, which Jurgen had envisioned as the first step in his culinary revolution, had completely failed. Coffee already exists in this world, but it is prepared in a primitive way, almost as if roasted beans are simply soaked in hot water. Inspired by this, Jurgen's plan had been to start with something simple and familiar, then gradually refine people's palates. But the fatal mistake was something else. Jurgen had underestimated the palates of the Britannians. Every drink carries habits and customs that have been deeply rooted through generations of history. Trying to change that in such a short amount of time is harder than defeating a monster in battle. Back in the present, the doorbell rings. Someone has just entered the shop. A blonde woman dressed in red enters, hiding her face behind a fan. Jurgen welcomes her, thanking her for always stopping by. He asks if he should prepare her usual order. The customer is Penelope. Penelope teases him, saying that the place is still just as empty and pathetic as ever. Jurgen replies that despite that, she has had a perfect attendance record these past few days. Penelope gets annoyed by the comment. She says that he should consider it an honor to have her as a customer. According to her, if it weren't for the coffee, she would never set foot in a place as humble as this. She demands that he stop wasting time and bring her usual order already. Jurgen jokingly replies that he will have everything ready in no time. The coffee is served in silence. Penelope, the shop's only loyal customer, drinks peacefully. It would not be an exaggeration to say that the business survives solely because of her. But Jurgen knows that he cannot depend on a single customer to keep a cafe running forever. He wonders if he will really have to give up on his dream right here. Jurgen refuses to accept such an ending. He swears that he cannot let that happen. He imagines Lily, sacrificed to the heavy duties of government, in his place. Thinking of her, a woman who burned away her very soul for his ideals, Jurgen clenches his fist with determination. He remembers that he still has some ingredients stored away. The time has come to move on to the second stage of his plan. Deep in thought, he concentrates as he secretly prepares something. Jurgen calls Penelope. She asks what it is. He thanks her once again for always visiting the cafe. He says that he has prepared something special on the house just for her, and he asks if she would be willing to try it. Penelope asks if it is a new item on the menu. Jurgen confirms that it is. She tells him to stop being so formal and agrees to taste it. Jurgen pours the dark liquid into the glass. The drink bubbles, sparkling as if it were champagne. Penelope watches with intrigue, asking what it is. Its color reminds her of coffee, but she notices that there is something different about it. Jurgen reveals that it is completely ice cold. He assures her that she will not regret it. Penelope hesitates, asking if he put something strange in the drink. She warns him that cheap tricks will not work on her. Jurgen swears that he would never do such a thing to his most valuable customer. She decides to trust him and brings the glass to her lips. Jurgen watches closely, tense as he waits for her reaction. Penelope lets out a soft moan. Then she releases a loud gasp of surprise. Her eyes sparkle with disbelief. She declares that it is incredible. Jurgen watches her attentively, hiding a smile. From a dark, thick syrup comes an explosion of freshness she could never have imagined. As the bubbles settle, a foam with a subtle hint of vanilla dances across her tongue. An electric sensation travels down her throat and spreads through her stomach. To top it all off, a subtle touch of lemon completes the flavor. Penelope lets out moans of satisfaction, unable to contain herself. Jurgen asks with a smile if, judging by her reaction, the drink turned out well. Penelope chokes slightly as she tries to regain her composure. Reluctantly, she admits that, as irritating as it is to accept, she cannot deny the truth. She declares that it is a mysterious and magical drink, something she has never tasted before in her entire life. She describes the sensation. It is like drinking a sweet night sky, completely filled with shooting stars. Jurgen watches her reaction, satisfied. He confirms to himself that he got it exactly right. Jurgen has finally managed to recreate that flavor. In this fantasy world, Penelope asks what the exact name of the drink is. She wants to know if it really isn't coffee. Jurgen confirms that it isn't, and then he reveals its name. This time, Jurgen is absolutely certain that drink is the same beverage that sells an average of 19 billion cups per day in around 200 countries on Earth. It is the drink that considers water itself its greatest rival. It is the drink that transcends ideologies and wins everyone over, no matter which side they are on. It is a drink that goes far beyond being a simple luxury product and instead goes on to dictate trends. The absolute and undisputed king of mass appeal, which eventually became an entire global culture. Jurgen reveals it is Penelope stares at the glass, speechless. She introduces herself, Penelope Rosemore. She comes from a prestigious and wealthy family that has ruled Nortalis for a long time. She is the third daughter of Count Rosemore. Penelope acknowledges that frequenting the modest commercial district of Brelum is beneath a noble lady like herself. And yet she's been visiting that alley for 3 months now. She reveals the reason. Not long ago, the coffee from this shop, which she had visited out of curiosity, was more delicious than she could ever have imagined. That coffee, called espresso, served in a small cup, had a flavor she had never experienced anywhere else. A wave of intense bitterness, followed by a rich and concentrated explosion of coffee flavor. But there is an even more important reason for her perfect attendance. That reason is the shop manager, Jurgen. Jurgen calls her by name, Penelope. He comments that it is a beautiful name. Jurgen teases her, saying that if she keeps frowning, she will get wrinkles on that pretty face. He thanks her for the tip she left today as well, and he says that he hopes to see her again tomorrow. Jurgen asks curiously if she wants to know what he thinks of when he looks at her. He pretends to think, and answers, perhaps a single rose. Penelope wonders how much longer he's going to continue speaking to her so informally. She reveals in her thoughts the second reason she visits that shop every day, to properly restore the dignity of a noblewoman. According to her, nobles are those who rule do not need to force anyone to bow before them. They only need to command respect through their own dignity and charisma. Therefore, revealing her family's name would be something worthy only of a third-rate noble. She thinks that if he continues seeing her refined appearance, he will figure out who she is on his own. She imagines the scene, Jurgen discovering the truth, shocked, asking if she had been a noblewoman all along. She imagines him kneeling and saying that a commoner like him had committed a grave sin against her. Just imagining his panic makes Penelope smile with satisfaction. Back in reality, Jurgen asks why she always goes to a coffee shop dressed like that. He says he is only asking because she looks uncomfortable. Penelope is shattered inside by the question. Later, already at home and soaking in the bathtub, she wonders if he has already discovered everything, and is deliberately pretending not to know. She gets angry, saying that she will not allow herself to be shaken by some mere general store owner. She swears that she will get back at him. Penelope decides that it would be easy to use her authority as a noble, but that would not satisfy her. She wants to repay him in kind, using precisely the thing he takes the most pride in. She admits that his coffee really is delicious, but he serves exactly the same drink every day and has been doing so for months. To her, that is an obvious flaw. She makes a plan. Tomorrow she will give him a ruthless and refreshing critique and make him cry tears of regret. That was what she thought. But things were about to take a different turn. Penelope asks, stammering, what the drink is called. Jurgen replies, cola. She repeats the name, still in disbelief, staring at the empty glass. She calls Jurgen. He responds curiously, embarrassed. Penelope asks if she could have another glass. Jurgen smiles. He replies that she can drink as much as she wants. Later that night, someone silently climbs the stairs of a mansion. It was exactly as Jurgen had imagined. He reflects. The power of cola is incredible. So incredible that she ordered 5 servings in a row that day. Outside, the butler asks if it is her, his lady. Penelope murmurs to herself, quietly repeating cola, cola, still enchanted. Jurgen is now certain. The intuitive flavor of cola, capable of pleasing people of any age or gender if he can spread it everywhere. Jurgen arrives at the hideout of the Montagra cartel, concealed deep within the jungle. Lopo stares at him. He asks if Jurgen is the weirdo who came to make a deal directly with him, the leader of the Montagra Merchant Guild. Jurgen, disguised behind a white rabbit mask, approaches. Lopo comments that Jurgen came from Nortalis in search of ingredients. He questions why Jurgen traveled all the way into the middle of the jungle, since the labyrinthine demon realm near Nortalis should have plenty of ingredients. Jurgen approaches, hiding a smile behind his mask. Lopo admits that the place is a true treasure trove of natural resources. But he reveals that there is one ingredient that can only be found there. Lopo asks curiously what it is. Jurgen replies coca leaves. Lopo reacts in shock. He mocks Jurgen, saying that calling it an ingredient instead of a drug only proves that he's even stranger than he thought. Lopo says that they do not care what Jurgen intends to use the product for, and he asks what Jurgen's opening offer is. Jurgen makes his offer 1 cent per ton. Lopo reacts in disbelief. The henchmen burst into laughter, mocking Jurgen's ridiculous offer. One of them taunts him, asking why Jurgen doesn't simply ask them to give him the product for free. Lopo asks if that makes any sense. Jurgen smiles and replies that it is the perfect price for criminals who are eating away at the kingdom from within. Lopo becomes furious at the provocation. He orders them to strip Jurgen of everything he is wearing and throw his body to the crocodiles in the garden as food. One henchman warns, laughing, that his crocodiles have been having trouble with their teeth lately. He decides that he will cut Jurgen into small pieces to make the meal easier. Jurgen strikes first with a brutal blow. The henchman is knocked down, bleeding. The other henchmen are shocked, realizing that Jurgen is not the weak nobleman they thought he was. They shout for the others to surround him, relying on their numerical advantage. Jurgen remains calm, standing among them. He activates his alchemy. A glowing crystal forms in his hand. Jurgen invokes his technique, material creation, gravity emitter. He rises into the air and the gravitational force crushes the henchmen around him. Gravity takes over the entire Montagra cartel hideout. The entire building is lifted by Jurgen's power. The henchmen scream, unable to understand what is happening to them. One of them curses Jurgen, demanding to know what he has done to everyone there. Their bodies float, dragged by the gravitational force. One henchman screams as he feels his own body being crushed. Jurgen remains at the center of the vortex, calmly controlling everything. The entire building is suspended in the air along with the henchmen. Lopo begs Jurgen to stop, unable to understand why he is going this far. Jurgen explains coca leaves, or more precisely, coca tree extract. He reveals that this ingredient is essential for recreating the perfect recipe. Lopo stammers, asking what recipe he is talking about and what it is used for. Jurgen simply smiles and asks him to keep it a secret. The scene shifts to Nortalis. Penelope arrives at Jurgen's shop, but she finds a sign that reads, closed for vacation. Penelope stares at the sign in disbelief. She becomes irritated, wondering where that man has wandered off to. She complains, wondering if she won't be able to drink cola today either. Penelope becomes furious, saying that he made her travel all the way there for nothing. She warns that she will never forgive him if he is away for any reason other than cola. Back in the jungle, Jurgen maintains complete control over gravity. The entire Montagra cartel building is lifted into the air along with its henchmen. The entire hideout floats, surrounded by the green energy of Jurgen's alchemy. The house crashes down, dragged by the gravitational force. Cries of pain echo from inside. The entire hideout explodes upon hitting the ground. Jurgen watches from the top of the cliff, staring at the crater left behind by the destruction. He warns that this should have been enough of a warning. He says they should be grateful that they are still alive. Jurgen notices something strange. The henchmen are tied to a post. One of them asks where the boss, Lopo, is, saying that he has disappeared. Jurgen wonders if he miscalculated the strength of his own attack. He remarks that either Lopo possessed a filthy rat or something along those lines in order to escape unnoticed. Lopo appears irritated, asking who Jurgen is calling a rat. He claims that it was a perfectly legitimate survival strategy. Jurgen observes that he is resilient, but then adds nevertheless. Jurgen warns that their negotiation is not over yet. He asks whether Lopo really thought he could simply run away. The scene shifts to a palace in Nortalis. A young woman asks about the Montagra cartel. A man explains that it is a cartel that has been growing rapidly in the protectorate of Soltera to the south. He says that he received reports from the Governor-General of Soltera regarding efforts to eliminate the cartel, but he reveals that the organization's leader is named Lopo, a 5th-grade knight known for his ruthless cruelty and charisma. The Governor-General had already sent a special task force to eliminate him once before, but the group failed. The young woman comments that this makes sense. After all, the combat power of a 5th-grade knight rivals that of a killing machine. Back in the jungle, Lopo flees through the flames. One of the henchmen screams, shocked by Jurgen's power. He says that Jurgen is stronger than a war tank. At the palace, the man continues. The jungle terrain presents a serious problem. If a 5th grade knight hides in the forest and wages guerrilla warfare, the expected casualties will be even greater. Lopo screams as he tries to escape between the palm trees. But Jurgen's magic sends him flying into the air. Wind magic. Lily asks whether it is true that the Governor General's report mentions the Alkard Empire supporting the cartel. The man replies that there is circumstantial evidence but no concrete proof. Lily says she will avoid jumping to conclusions. She explains that northern Soltura shares a direct border with the Alkard Empire, an enemy nation. Using military force recklessly in that area would violate the armistice agreement and trigger a diplomatic crisis. In the jungle, Lopo desperately flees between the palm trees, begging them to spare his life. Lily continues, but if they leave a cartel supported by the Alkard Empire unchecked, it could result in the loss of the entire Soltura region, among other even greater problems. For now, she decides simply to observe how the situation develops. The man confirms, addressing her as the Minister of Internal Affairs. Lily corrects him, acting minister. She explains that she is only holding things together until Lord Hanbin returns. The man apologizes. Lily gazes thoughtfully at Hanbin's empty chair. She thinks that if he were there, he would have come up with a clear solution to everything one way or another. Once again, she feels the emptiness he left behind. Ever since he stopped being by Lily's side, she has wondered where he is and what he is doing. Back in the jungle, Jurgen looks at Lopo, saying that he has finally given up trying to escape. Lopo kneels cornered. He begs, saying that he does not know who Jurgen is or where he came from, but asks what he did to deserve such hatred. Jurgen replies that he holds no personal grudge against him. Lopo grows desperate, asking how a small businessman like him is supposed to survive if an absolute powerhouse like Jurgen comes after him simply because he runs a modest cartel. He begs Jurgen to leave him alone just this once. Jurgen sarcastically asks whether Lopo did not control the entire Montagra region. He mocks him, modest business. At that scale, he is practically running a little neighborhood shop. Lopo begs, offering coca leaves or anything else Jurgen wants in exchange for sparing his life. Jurgen asks with interest whether he really said anything. Lopo smiles in relief, thinking he has managed to convince him. He calls Jurgen closer. Meanwhile, Lopo thinks that from that angle, Jurgen will not be able to see the sword he has hidden on the ground. Lopo plans to attack by surprise, thinking that no matter how strong Jurgen is, he is still nothing more than a mere alchemist. There is no way he can withstand a surprise attack from a knight who has trained his body to its absolute limit. His eyes shine with confidence as he prepares to strike. Lopo takes advantage of the distraction and attacks from behind, knife in hand. He believes he has caught Jurgen completely off guard, but Jurgen notices the attack in time. With a swift movement, Jurgen grabs Lopo by the head. Jurgen climbs on top of him, pinning him to the ground with his own weight. An explosion of energy forms around the two of them. When the dust settles, Lopo is buried up to his neck in the ground. Jurgen pulls out a piece of paper and shows it to Lopo. It turns out to be a contract. Jurgen orders Lopo to sign it, saying that he listed him as Party A out of generosity. Lopo stares at the document in disbelief. He shouts angrily, outraged by the clauses in the contract. He calls Jurgen a heartless swindler. Jurgen retorts that a criminal has no right to talk about conscience. Lopo continues complaining about the terms. According to the contract, he would have to pay the farmers their full wages while selling their crops to Jurgen at a miserable price. Lopo refuses to accept it. Jurgen asks why Lopo's first instinct is always to exploit the farmers. He suggests that Lopo and his own men should work the land themselves. Jurgen remarks that Lopo has plenty of members in his organization. Lopo becomes irritated. He says that the cartel has its pride. He asks whether Jurgen seriously expects criminals to do farm work. Lopo would rather die right there than accept that. Jurgen silently stares at Lopo, considering his answer. A purple energy begins forming in his hand. Jurgen warns Lopo that he is only saying this out of concern, but the energy grows, taking the shape of an unstable sphere. Jurgen raises his arm, controlling the power. The purple sphere expands violently. It descends upon Lopo with full force. The impact shakes the entire surrounding area. Jurgen contains the explosion with his own hand, shaping the energy into a barrier. Jurgen warns Lopo not to even think about backing out of the contract. He promises that if Lopo hides, he will find him. And if that happens, Jurgen will repeat everything he did that day. Cornered, Lopo gives up. He agrees to sign the contract. Jurgen thanks him for finalizing the deal. The scene shifts to the Nortali's palace at night. An official comes running in, announcing Lily, the acting minister. He says there is an urgent dispatch from the office of the Governor General of Soltura. Lily asks what it is about this time. The official reveals that the Montagra cartel has voluntarily disbanded. Lily reacts in confusion. He continues, saying that the cartel's members apparently changed professions and became farmers. Lily is left completely baffled. Back in Jurgen's laboratory, he analyzes the ingredients. He concludes that he has solved the most difficult problem, securing a stable supply of coca leaves. However, he still needs to figure out how to remove the hallucinogenic components and extract only the flavor. Jurgen reveals that he has obtained a huge surplus of ingredients, enough to produce hundreds of thousands of bottles of cola. He remarks that, as an added bonus, he also eliminated a cartel that would have become a serious problem in the future. He feels that this somewhat eases his guilt over abandoning his position as Minister of Internal Affairs. Jurgen considers that he cannot simply use force to obtain every ingredient he needs. He decides that he will purchase the rest legally. Jurgen lists what he still needs: sugar and various spices. He goes to his safe thinking about the assets he has available. Jurgen discovers that he is out of money. He considers taking out a loan, but then he remembers that since he erased his identity, he has no credit history, so that option is out of the question. Jurgen decides that at times like this, putting his own body to work is the best option. He equips himself like an explorer ready for an expedition. His destination, the land of opportunity, the Demon Kingdom's labyrinth. Penelope arrives at Jurgen's shop once again. She complains that she has already spent days making these pointless and fruitless visits. She feels her patience reaching its limit. Penelope wonders what could possibly be so special about a simple cola. She questions whether it is really right to neglect a loyal customer like her this way. Suddenly, a doubt strikes her. Could Jurgen have fled the city in the middle of the night? She notices something strange. She has never seen any other customers in that shop. Penelope thinks that if a foreign merchant's business is failing and he is behind on his rent, fleeing would be his only way out. She panics at the possibility. If he really fled, she would never be able to drink cola or coffee again. Penelope plants herself in front of the shop. She thinks that if things were really so bad that he had to flee, he could have at least told her something. She reflects that if he had told her he was having financial difficulties, she would have lent him the money for the rent. Penelope realizes something. She wonders whether Jurgen even knows that she is the daughter of a count. She thinks she should have told him before this happened. At that moment, someone bumps into her. She turns around in confusion. It is Jurgen, dressed as an explorer. He greets her, saying that it has been a while since they last saw each other. Penelope realizes that he did not flee in the middle of the night. He shamelessly left in broad daylight. Jurgen calls her by her full name, Miss Devereaux. He asks her to let go of his backpack first. Penelope grips the backpack tightly and demands her cola before letting him go anywhere. She bares her teeth in desperation. A cup of coffee is placed on the table. Penelope says that she understands the situation. Jurgen reveals that he has no cola left. He is also out of ingredients. He shows her the empty cup, turning it upside down. Penelope reacts in shock. She asks what exactly she's been waiting for all these days then. She asks whether Jurgen had been visiting the cafe throughout her entire trip. Penelope denies doing so. She insists that she was not waiting for him. Jurgen asks why she is so irritated. Penelope asks where he plans to get the ingredients. She reminds him that he said he had no money at all. Jurgen replies that he's going to get them from the Nortali's labyrinth in the Demon Kingdom. Penelope reacts in disbelief. She asks if he has completely lost his mind. She questions whether he even knows which floor of the Demon Kingdom contains the spices. Jurgen confidently replies that of course he does. He explains that most spices can be found on the 4th floor. Penelope watches him in surprise. She admits that at least he did his research. Penelope warns him that a little knowledge can be dangerous. She explains that even though the Demon Kingdom became safer after the Great Subjugation, that only applies to adventurers. She warns him that if an ordinary merchant enters the Demon Kingdom alone, he will become monster food in an instant. Penelope explains that to access the 4th floor, one needs an entry permit issued by the Merchants Union or the Adventurers Guild, and it must be at least a silver-class permit. Penelope warns Jurgen that if some random civilian enters the Demon Kingdom and gets into an accident, sending a rescue team becomes a nightmare. Jurgen merely lets out a huh, without understanding the problem. A poster on the wall reads, "Recruitment for monster subjugation parties with a prohibited symbol." Jurgen argues that he only wants to beat up some monsters. He asks why he would need a permit for that. Penelope confirms that just as she suspected, Jurgen has absolutely no idea what he is talking about. She explains that in the past, adventurers who entered the Demon Kingdom were rewarded with money, but times have changed. Suddenly, Penelope is struck by an idea. She thinks if she helps Jurgen obtain the ingredients for the cola, wouldn't that be the perfect excuse to demand more cola later? Above all, Penelope has something else in mind. This would be the perfect chance to show just how capable she is in front of that oblivious man. Penelope clears her throat and informs Jurgen that a silver-class permit or higher is only granted to adventurers with proven experience. Jurgen is surprised. Penelope continues, explaining that it is sometimes granted as a special privilege to nobles. And most incredible of all, Penelope reveals that she happens to have one right here. She lists its benefits: reduced tariffs on products extracted from the Demon Realm, discounts at stores in the affiliated commercial district, free access to shelters within the Demon Realm, fast and reliable rescue services from the Adventurers Guild, bonuses and extra points for completing guild missions, priority in bids for high-level requests. Penelope shows him the card. It isn't an ordinary silver permit. It's an emerald permit which allows her to bring up to 3 companions. Jurgen lets out a cry of pure excitement. Penelope smiles, satisfied. HMPH, so what do you think of that? Penelope thinks to herself, a permit like this isn't given to just anyone. She reflects, seriously, at this point, even the owner of the cafe should have realized who she is. Impressed, Jurgen holds up the bottle of cola and comments that he can't believe she had something this incredible. He continues, "Miss Penelope, you were..." Jurgen concludes that she must have been a skilled adventurer all along. Then he asks if she was an alchemist. Penelope gets annoyed and asks how he came to that conclusion. Jurgen changes his mind. "Maybe you're not an alchemist, but a knight." Penelope accuses him of knowing exactly who she is and doing this on purpose. The two arrive at the Richmond Demon Realm portal. In the lobby, a group of men watches Jurgen from a distance. He is fully equipped like an explorer. Penelope appears and says, "We made it this far without any trouble." Jurgen is startled by her sudden appearance. Penelope has completely transformed, dressed like an elite hunter. Jurgen freezes, staring at her. She asks what's wrong. Jurgen brushes it off, saying that her outfit is just very different from what she usually wears at the cafe. Penelope asks if he thought she was going to enter the labyrinth wearing a dress. She explains that this time she's strictly there as his guide. Penelope lays down the rules. She will take him to the 4th floor of the demon realm and protect him. But there's one condition. She gets priority to taste the cola as soon as it's ready. Jurgen agrees, only half paying attention. The two arrive at platform 2 where an employee checks their permits. Penelope shows the guard her emerald permit. They proceed toward the magical portal leading to the demon realm. Jurgen is surprised by the structure of the place, commenting that it looks like a first-class airport lounge. Penelope looks puzzled. Airport. Then she repeats, "First-class lounge." Penelope complains, "That's a thing, could you stop showing off?" She adds, "Even I know what that is, you know." Jurgen recalls that there was a time when he could travel through the demon realm as easily as walking around his own home. Since taking over as Minister of Internal Affairs, he hadn't come here anymore. It feels like returning home after a long time away. The two step through the portal together, ready for their expedition. Jurgen carefully observes the surroundings. He lets out an impressed "Yo-ho." Recognizing the place, Penelope walks ahead looking down and asks what Jurgen is doing. "The path is this way." She tells Jurgen to stop standing around like an idiot and stay close to her. Penelope warns him that all he has to do is follow the streetlights. Jurgen is surprised. Streetlights in the demon realm. The narration describes the labyrinth. The entire field of vision is blocked by thick walls, creating a featureless terrain where it is impossible to find any landmarks or checkpoints. And in the middle of all this, monsters can attack at any moment, a true hell that has already swallowed countless adventurers. Penelope adds sarcastically, "That's what it should be." She looks around. Let's see, it's to the left. A signpost appears along the path. Jurgen is shocked. They even have signposts. Jurgen asks if they shouldn't be careful of traps. Penelope corrects him, "What era are you living in?" The Adventurers Guild removed the traps from the main paths on the first floor a long time ago. She adds that the place has been renovated so extensively that it could easily be mistaken for a labyrinth-themed amusement park. Penelope explains that this route is a shortcut created by blasting holes directly through the labyrinth's walls to save time. She boasts that he should be grateful to have such an excellent guide. Jurgen asks if the demon realm wasn't originally much more dangerous. Penelope confirms that an ordinary person like him could still easily lose his life from one wrong step. She adds that the guild may have removed the traps, but they can't completely control the monster's spawn points. A pair of red eyes glows in the darkness ahead of them. A gigantic monster emerges before them, its green eyes glowing brightly. Penelope pulls several vials from her bag and prepares to act, just like now. She cries out in alarm, "A monster!" Penelope consults her book. According to it, this is a parasitic aquatic beast called a labyrinth ray. The book explains that it is difficult to fight when attached to a giant host, but on its own, its combat power is no greater than that of a fierce wild dog. Penelope admits that this is the first time she has ever seen one in person. She reveals that, in fact, this is only the 4th time she has ever set foot in the demon realm. Penelope thinks to herself, even so, she had always traveled silently, protected by a team of professional adventurers. She had never needed to fight a monster herself, she thinks tensely. "Well, I can't let this man find out." Penelope reflects that she is still a 4th-grade alchemist. Although she hasn't used her skills in a long time, she brought several alchemical catalysts with her. She tells Jurgen that it's only a wandering-class monster and that it's no big deal. She orders him to take care of the luggage while she handles it. A note explains that wandering class is a monster rank that would cause only a minor inconvenience if it were summoned back outside the demon realm. The monster charges toward Penelope. She shouts, "Just watch and marvel at my brilliant magic." Penelope fires her technique. Guided arrow. The attack strikes the monster directly. Jurgen stares silently in surprise. The monster is defeated, exploding in a burst of light. A man approaches and apologizes, saying that he thought Penelope was in danger. Another member of the group asks if she's all right and says she must have been frightened. A third man approaches and asks if she's hurt anywhere. The narration introduces the group, a trio of adventurers. They look somewhat rough around the edges, but judging by their high-quality equipment and the skills they just demonstrated, it's clear that they are veterans. One of them bows. "It's an honor to meet you, young lady." He introduces himself. "I'm Ethan, the vanguard of our group." Penelope responds coldly, "Not interested." She calls Jurgen over and tells him to keep moving, saying they still have a long way to go. Ethan insists, "Beautiful lady, the demon realm is more dangerous than you realize. Why don't you listen to us first?" Penelope repeats firmly, "I said I'm not interested." Ethan continues without giving up, "Come on, young lady, don't be so cold." Jurgen watches the scene and thinks, wow, he's persistent. Normally, people would back off in embarrassment after being treated like that. Ethan continues, wouldn't it be better to travel with reliable people like us instead of carrying around that goofy-looking porter? He boasts that he actually possesses a silver-class license, then he calls Jurgen a commoner. Penelope cuts him off. I already said I'm not interested. Ethan stammers in shock, see commoner. Penelope continues impatiently. I can travel perfectly fine without your pathetic help. She glares at Ethan with contempt and orders, get lost. Jurgen and Ethan exchange a tense look. Ethan walks away muttering, and to think I was trying to make you a good offer, what a shame. He says goodbye. Have a nice day. The group of adventurers walks away, commenting among themselves. Let's just collect the materials. Yeah. Jurgen comments to Penelope. Miss Penelope, I think you drove them away a little too harshly. She responds indifferently. So what? Jurgen considers that not everyone in the demon realm is a good adventurer. Caution is a good thing, but Penelope interrupts him. There's no need to make enemies unnecessarily. Penelope stomps her foot in irritation. She snaps. Is that really what someone who was just insulted to his face should say? Don't you have any pride? She reminds Jurgen. He called you a goofy-looking porter. Jurgen asks in surprise. Oh, you were angry on my behalf. I appreciate the sentiment. Penelope denies it. I wasn't. She immediately corrects herself. I was only annoyed because that greasy-looking guy kept staring me up and down. The two continue forward, crossing a bridge inside the cavern. They arrive at a sign that reads, 3rd floor. Jurgen looks at his watch, shocked. It's already nighttime. Penelope repeats, confused. Nighttime. She informs him. It's midnight, Sir Jurgen. She suggests, let's enter the 4th floor tomorrow and get some rest today. What do you think? Jurgen asks, here? Then he wonders if there is a shelter nearby. Penelope answers that the fastest route would take 2 hours. Jurgen decides. Then let's just sit here and rest. I'll set up camp. Penelope simply responds. Jurgen prepares everything, he thinks. She agreed surprisingly easily. Penelope shouts irritably, fine. Jurgen thinks that he had expected her to complain, something along the lines of, are you really making me camp out in the open? He had imagined that she would grumble about something like that. Penelope remains silent, brooding over something deep inside. She thinks, it's my fault. She reflects she was so frustrated because she lost her chance to show off because of those guys earlier. Penelope crosses her arms, thinking if she hadn't insisted on going after that monster, they would have already reached the 4th floor shelter by now. She thinks this is the first time she's ever camped outdoors. Penelope reflects, sleeping on the hard ground is going to make her back hurt, and since they're in the demon realm instead of a shelter, they'll probably have to take turns keeping watch too. She watches Jurgen setting up the camp by himself and thinks, she caused trouble for him too. Penelope thinks, to think she's going through all this just because of a single drink. She remembers her father's voice. What would my family say if they found out? Keep that in mind, Penelope. A memory surfaces in Penelope's mind. An elderly butler kneels down, picking up shards from the floor. He says that it is only natural for a servant to serve a noble, but he adds, if a servant suffers because of a noble's whim, the noble must take responsibility. The voice continues, this is done by preparing a gift or reward worthy of the situation. That is what defines the true dignity of a noble. Penelope comes back to her senses, having made a decision. She thinks that she needs to prepare a worthy reward for Jurgen. Back in the demon realm, Jurgen prepares food at the campsite. Penelope approaches, watching him. She asks if he has experience camping. Jurgen replies that he has done it many times. Penelope holds out a blanket for him. She says she brought one and tells him to cover himself with it. Jurgen notices the smell of the blanket. Penelope explains that it isn't a luxury material but guarantees insulation and resistance to moisture, making it ideal for the situation. Jurgen smiles and comments, function comes before price. Penelope stares at him, surprised by his answer. She looks away awkwardly. Penelope promises that as soon as they get out of there, she'll buy him a much better blanket. Jurgen thanks her excitedly and tells her that the food is almost ready. Penelope asks what kind of food it is. Jurgen explains that it's a giant potato pancake, similar to a hash brown. He adds that it's high in calories and will help them with the next day's activities. Penelope thinks it smells great, but its appearance doesn't seem particularly special. Still, she decides to eat it, thinking about the schedule awaiting them. She thanks him for the food. Penelope takes her first bite. She chews, surprised. Her eyes sparkle. She feels the crispy texture, almost as if it were vibrating in her ears. Inside, the soft texture of the finely grated potatoes impresses her. An intense richness fills Penelope's mouth. She wonders if this is really the same potato she has always eaten. Just as the simple flavor of the potato begins to become slightly repetitive, a subtle herbal aroma emerges, completing the experience. Penelope can't stop eating. Jurgen offers her chamomile tea to go with it. Penelope asks what kind of magic he used on those potatoes to make them taste like that. Jurgen replies that he fried everything in a mixture of lard and butter. Penelope asks if that's all there is to it. Jurgen explains that all you need is good quality butter. He curiously asks if it's good and whether it's edible. Penelope reluctantly admits that it isn't bad. She adds it's just that she thinks it would have been perfect if she had some Coke to go with it. Jurgen observes her expression. He thinks that's exactly what her face is saying. The now empty frying pan rests on the stone. Later, Penelope sleeps deeply, snoring softly. Jurgen watches Penelope sleeping, wondering if she fell asleep instantly because she was satisfied. He concludes that taking turns keeping watch is out of the question. Penelope murmurs in her sleep, asking to be woken up in 3 hours. Jurgen thinks he never intended to wake her up anyway. He notices that she's clearly a spoiled girl from a wealthy family, so she must be exhausted. Jurgen stretches, thinking that she only came all the way there out of sheer stubbornness. He warns himself it's going to be a long night. He pours himself some tea. Jurgen drinks it contentedly. He comments that having tea in the labyrinth is a special luxury. Turning toward the darkness, he asks if whoever is watching them would like to join them for a cup. A dark-haired man responds, saying that it seems they've been followed for a while. He warns them, don't just lurk miserably in the darkness. He invites them to come closer and warm themselves by the fire. A trio of men appears, led by a man wearing a red headband. The leader taunts Jurgen. Lighting a fire in the middle of the demon realm makes him a completely clueless carrier. He asks if Jurgen has a death wish. He adds, or did he simply decide to die? Jurgen calmly replies, which one would it be? The man orders them to stop acting tough and put a collar on the woman. He warns them, any funny business and she'll get a hole blown through her forehead. He adds, behave yourselves and we'll let you live, so don't make things difficult. Jurgen asks, so you weren't ordinary adventurers after all? The man laughs, saying they'll see if Jurgen keeps talking so freely after he sees what they're capable of. He shows the tattoo on his arm. Jurgen asks if it's a poisonous snake tattoo. The man confirms that's right, they belong to the Black Obsidian Syndicate. The man reveals that the Black Obsidian Syndicate uses the 5th floor of the demon realm as its base of operations. He warns, even decent adventurers avoid them. That means they're not people that a mere carrier like Jurgen can fight. The red headband leader warns, now that Jurgen understands the situation, he'd better behave and not cause any trouble. Jurgen looks at the collar in his hands. He comments that it's been a long time since he last saw one of those. He identifies it, mana restraints. One of the men asks what Jurgen intends to do after putting them on Penelope. The leader replies, first they need to collect on the insult they suffered earlier. He adds, after that they'll take everything she has and watch her cry beneath them. Another thug adds with a grin, and then they'll sell her for a good price and make a fortune. Jurgen comments that they seem quite accustomed to this kind of thing. The leader confirms it. If Jurgen cooperates properly, they might even let him have some fun too. Jurgen asks if there's no way they can simply let them continue on their way. The leader laughs as if they had never met each other before. One of the thugs bursts out laughing, calling Jurgen a hilarious idiot. He questions him, they followed him all day, and Jurgen wants them to go back empty-handed. Jurgen remains calm, tapping his fingers. The leader finds his composure strange, wondering if Jurgen might not be an ordinary carrier after all. Penelope, still unconscious, is threatened. One of the men declares it doesn't matter, even if she wakes up and resists, the three of them are confident they can overpower her. One of them warns an unprepared alchemist can lose his life even to a beast in a child's hands. He takes aim with his bow, confident his guided arrow never misses. Jurgen calmly replies, first of all, there's been a misunderstanding. Jurgen declares he is the gardener who pulls out poisonous mushrooms and weeds growing in the kingdom's garden. One of the thugs is startled. Jurgen's aura suddenly changed. Jurgen continues, the way he sees it, the three of them are exactly that, weeds. He adds, definitely weeds. The leader shouts angrily, what kind of nonsense is this? One of the thugs asks the boss if he should simply eliminate Jurgen right there, noting that he seems to be waiting for the woman to wake up. One of the men is struck, covered in blood. Jurgen attacks, cutting down another thug. He apologizes cynically, whoops, my apologies. He adds sarcastically, I was so scared and trembling that my hand slipped. The archer fires his arrow with all his strength. The magic leader summons flames, shouting, you bastard. Jurgen advances through the middle of the fiery explosions, unharmed. Purple energy surrounds Jurgen, gathering around him. The thugs react in shock at what they see. Jurgen taunts them, what's the rush? He adds, looks like you're excited to play a little too after such a long time. A bag opens, revealing a threatening glow inside. Jurgen calls out to the creature, bitch. He warns, there'll be candy waiting for you when you're done. One of the thugs screams in terror, danger. Another concludes in panic, this guy definitely isn't an ordinary adventurer. He wonders if Jurgen is a cleaner sent by the guild or the merchant alliance. The leader corrects him in panic, no, actually. He might be an opponent they should never have messed with. He screams desperately, run. The three thugs are swallowed by the dark force. They are dragged into a purple vortex, pulled deeper and deeper. The three scream in despair. The leader's eyes become red and bloodshot, consumed by madness. He is dragged away, surrounded by floating eyes watching him. One of the thugs groans, overcome by delirium. The other clutches his own head in terror, trembling. The red headband leader twists his face, screaming. He screams in panic, H-Huig. He rants, there are eyes inside my head, inside my skull, my brain, inside my brain. Another thug trembles uncontrollably, hallucinating. He raises his hands toward the sky, pleading, ah, oh, great being. He begs, oh, absolute one who reigns over all greed. The leader also kneels in delirious ecstasy. Mother, mother, my mother who devours me. He screams, I repent, I will become one with you. He rants, screaming, "I am hideous, I am filthy." He begs in utter desperation, "Please tear out my eyes and let them become yours." Jurgen's bag floats, steaming after swallowing the three men. Jurgen watches with his back turned silently. He comments indifferently, He concludes, "They must have been some truly wicked bastards." The narration explains, "Strictly speaking, bitch did not judge anyone, she merely delivered a verdict. Those men were simply crushed beneath the weight of their own sins." Jurgen looks at Penelope, still sleeping. Fortunately, she remains deep in the world of dreams, he thinks. Considering that she slept through all that commotion, she must have been extremely exhausted. A sound of impact comes from behind Jurgen. He turns around, alert. The bag moves on its own. A furry creature emerges from inside, approaching Jurgen. The creature complains, asking for the promised candy. Jurgen remembers, "Oh, I almost forgot, I understand the rules. Here's the script following the order of the images." Jurgen corrects Bitch. He says that his name is Jurgen now, not Hanbin. Bitch gives him a reward, a colorful lollipop. Jurgen warns that Bitch is going to get sick from eating so much, but Bitch devours it anyway. Bitch asks if it was difficult to deal with the bandits. She adds, Bitch hates bad people. Jurgen smiles and comments that Bitch is still the same as always. He gives her another order. Until they leave the demon realm, Bitch must continue driving away the monsters as she's been doing. Suddenly, Bitch becomes frightened by something. Jurgen tells Bitch to get back inside the bag. He turns around and asks if she has something to say. Bitch points at Penelope, who is still sleeping. She asks if Jurgen likes that woman. Jurgen stares at Bitch, surprised by the question. He silently observes the creature for a moment. Jurgen replies seriously, "I already told you not to call a person a woman like that." The scene changes to a dream. Penelope appears younger with red eyes. She walks through a garden and spots someone sitting in the distance, writing at a desk. A caption reveals the location, the Rosemore House garden. Penelope wonders who that person sitting there could be. In the dream, a young Penelope runs towards someone, shouting, "Sister." She arrives, running excitedly. The young woman she was looking for is Clarice, sitting at the table and writing. Penelope approaches, calling out, "Sister Clarice." Clarice looks up, surprised by her sister's arrival. Suddenly, the image changes. A voice echoes, "Clarice." Someone shouts Penelope's name, warning her that she'll hurt herself if she keeps jumping around like a rabbit. Penelope apologizes, shrinking back. The voice asks if her knee still hasn't healed from the injury she got in the garden. Penelope, annoyed, insists she just really wanted to give that to her sister. She holds out a wrapped package to Clarice. Clarice looks at the present, surprised. Clarice calls Penelope a little troublemaker, asking what has gotten her so excited this time. Penelope shows her she bought lemon candies, a new kind she saw in the shopping district. The scene returns to Penelope's face, now an adult, as she watches the memory. Thinks her sister had always been like this. Penelope remembers even when she lost the brooch Clarice treasured the most. Even when she tore Clarice's dress after wearing it without permission. Even when Clarice was scolded in her place after Penelope broke a vase while playing hide-and-seek. Clarice would only give her a light flick on the forehead, one that didn't even hurt. Penelope thinks not once had she ever truly been angry with me. Penelope thinks I loved her, and she loved me too. In the dream, little Penelope excitedly says that the dessert is delicious and that she wants to eat it together with her sister. Clarice agrees it really is delicious. She smiles and says, "See." Adult Penelope realizes this is a dream. She watches the scene, understanding. It is a forgotten memory from her carefree childhood, from a time when she still knew nothing. Penelope thinks, "It is a dream I can't stop having, even though I know those days will never come back." She criticizes herself, how pathetic. Suddenly, a voice calls out, "Penelope." She's startled. Little Penelope in the dream moves away alongside Clarice, walking farther and farther away. Clarice's face becomes dark, her gaze heavy as she looks at Penelope. Confused and frightened, Penelope stares at the scene. Clarice declares coldly she really is completely useless. Penelope's eyes widen, wounded by the words. Clarice's image moves farther away, disappearing into the darkness. In the dream, little Penelope runs after her, shouting something. Penelope stretches out her hand, desperately trying to reach a distant light. Her hand reaches toward the glow. A voice calls out, "Miss Penelope." Penelope wakes with a start, gasping for breath. Jurgen appears before her, holding a frying pan, asking if she slept well. Penelope hurriedly covers herself, embarrassed as she realizes the position she is in. Penelope is startled, thinking it is already her turn to stand watch. Jurgen tells her that since she is awake, she should have breakfast first. He shows her the dish, chicken soup today. Penelope looks at the food hesitantly, still half asleep. She smells it and perks up. It smells wonderful. Suddenly she shouts, "Wait, no." Confused, she asks if he said breakfast and questions what happened to the night watch. Jurgen explains she was sleeping so deeply that he couldn't bring himself to wake her. Penelope asks in surprise, "So you stayed awake all night by yourself?" Jurgen brushes it off, it was nothing. He says he used to do that every day. Penelope's eyes widen as she stares at him. She asks incredulously, "You didn't trust me either?" Jurgen calmly eats his soup. Penelope covers her mouth, bothered by her own question. She immediately corrects herself. No, he isn't her sister Clarice. Jurgen thinks it was just a kind gesture with no ulterior motive, but Penelope declares irritably she could have kept watch by herself. She grumbles, shrinking back. She didn't need that half-hearted help. Sitting beside the campfire, she repeats to herself, "Keeping watch, I mean." She falls silent, deep in thought. Penelope panics internally. She ruined everything. He must think she's ridiculous. She thinks embarrassedly. He probably even thinks she's some kind of crazy woman. Jurgen calmly eats his soup and comments, "Well then." He raises his hands, explaining himself. That was why, but if she was upset, he apologizes. Penelope stares at him uncomfortably, holding her own bowl. She thinks she would have preferred it if he had gotten angry. Time passes. The two continue walking through the labyrinth. Penelope consults the map ahead of them while Jurgen follows closely behind. She sighs, still dwelling on the matter. Penelope thinks maybe she should apologize, but she quickly corrects herself. No. Nobles don't apologize to commoners. She decides at most she would say, I'm sorry that happened. Besides, he was only there because of her in the first place. Penelope reasons she had already done him a favor. She had simply acted unpleasant afterward. She concludes, so they're even. Neither of them owes the other anything. Penelope thinks, if she still feels bad about it, she can always buy him a gift later. She turns around and asks, how much farther? Jurgen answers, about 5 minutes, just keep going straight. Penelope points out the path, confirming it on the map. Jurgen thanks her. She continues ahead, walking with determined steps. Jurgen watches her, thinking she must have had a nightmare or something. He reflects, it's not like he was expecting a heartfelt thank you for helping her. Jurgen thinks children her age tend to grumble and get annoyed over the smallest things. He continues, besides, his greatest ambition is so close now that even her little performance seems insignificant. Jurgen gets excited, thinking about cola. He clenches his fist with determination. He needs to gather the ingredients and make cola as soon as possible. The two finally reach their destination. Penelope announces, looks like we're here. Jurgen looks around, impressed. So this is the first reward room. Penelope is amazed by the place and exclaims, wow. She confirms, so this is a reward room. The two move forward through a lush landscape filled with vegetation and a sparkling river. They walk together along the trail, surrounded by glowing plants. Penelope marvels, amazing. She wonders who could have built a place like this. Jurgen comments, what's even more surprising is something else. Penelope asks curiously, what is it? Jurgen explains, no matter how much you harvest from here, everything grows back in a short time. A noise draws their attention. Something is found inside the backpack. Jurgen asks for a moment. He crouches down, searching among the plants. Jurgen confirms it's cinnamon. He comments that they finally came to the right place. Penelope asks how he identified it just by its smell. She wants to know why he was examining it so carefully. Jurgen explains there are two types of cinnamon, Ceylon and Cassia. He elaborates, Ceylon is the premium variety, known for its sweet aroma and delicate texture. Jurgen continues, Cassia looks similar to Ceylon, but it is coarser. It is considered the inferior variety. He points to what he found, and this one is. He reveals Cassia. Penelope screams in shock. An explanation appears. Cinnamon is divided into two main types, Ceylon and Cassia. Ceylon is dried into thin rolled layers. It has a sweet aroma and a mild flavor. Because it is difficult to cultivate and harvest, it is considered a premium product. Cassia, on the other hand, is sold in a similar form but has a much rougher appearance. It is far cheaper, which is why it is used in mass-produced products. It contains very little eugenol, the compound responsible for cinnamon's mild aroma. Instead, it has a strong, spicy smell. For that reason, restaurants and cafes in Britannia mainly use Ceylon. Cassia has little demand and is used almost exclusively as an insect repellent. In other words, Penelope panics. She remembers trying to make up for her mistake that morning by guiding Jurgen here. And now she discovers that out of all the reward rooms, she had chosen the one that gave the inferior prize. Jurgen reassures Penelope. He tells her that she guided him very well. Penelope asks incredulously if he really means it. Jurgen explains the cola they're creating uses exactly this ingredient. He elaborates, Ceylon is the premium variety while Cassia is clearly inferior. But when it comes to cutting costs, using the premium variety simply isn't worth it. Penelope lets out a sigh of relief, looking proud. She claims that she knew that all along. She says her palate is quite precise. Jurgen watches her thoughtfully. She had been sulking all day, but he feels that he's beginning to understand what kind of person she is. Penelope offers to help with the harvesting. She asks Jurgen to teach her how to do it. Jurgen explains for Ceylon they would need to peel only the inner bark from young trees around 2 to 3 years old. But Cassia can come from older trees and even the outer bark can be used. That makes the process much simpler. Penelope smiles confidently. She asks, then can I just cut down the entire tree? Jurgen teases her, do you think you can handle that? Penelope replies that she doesn't have time to sit around peeling trees. She takes an item out of her bag. Jurgen watches curiously. Penelope tells Jurgen to stay behind her so he won't get caught up in what is about to happen. Jurgen notices the catalyst in her hands, a wind feather, a white seagull feather with a fragment of lapis lazuli at its tip. He analyzes it, judging by the material and craftsmanship, it must be a product certified by the Alchemy Association. But he considers, a good catalyst does not guarantee good magic. How it is used and what kind of magic it produces depends entirely on the skill of the person casting it. A magic circle forms beneath Penelope's feet. Jurgen comments to himself, he is also an alchemist. He is curious to see what his regular customer is truly capable of. Penelope prepares herself, feeling the energy gathering in her hand. She thinks finally a chance to show what she can do. She admits that it is a little disappointing that her target is a tree rather than a monster, but she promises to show Jurgen what she is capable of. Penelope concentrates her mana, channeling the power of the wind through the catalyst. She compresses the energy, shaping razor-sharp blades of wind. Then she releases everything in all directions. Penelope shouts the name of the technique, cutting wind. The blast of wind sends her flying backward along with Jurgen. The impact shakes the entire surrounding area. The trees are sliced into precise sections, crashing to the ground. Hundreds of trunks come falling down, perfectly sliced. Jurgen watches in surprise. He remembers that she said she was a fourth-grade alchemist. But the quality of that magic is even greater than he expected. He analyzes the sharpness and transparency of the wind blades, the control required to divide thousands of them into identical sizes and fire them all at once. And then there is the precision required to destroy hundreds of trees in an instant without raising even a single speck of dust. But something bothers Jurgen. He feels that something is wrong. Jurgen watches Penelope constructing her magical code. He senses something strange in the resonance it produces. He analyzes it. The magic itself is excellent, but there is something about it that feels unnatural. Jurgen examines her mana circuits. He wonders if there is something wrong with them. He reflects if he had to compare it to something, it would be like watching someone ride a unicycle instead of a normal bicycle. Both move forward by pedaling, but the process seems subtly wrong. Jurgen can't identify exactly what it is. Perhaps she simply lacks the creativity necessary to fully materialize her own magic. He decides to keep that observation to himself. Jurgen applauds, praising Penelope. He says that he is impressed and that he can't praise her enough. Penelope smiles, pretending to be indifferent. She says it was nothing special. She celebrates, inwardly satisfied. It has been a long time since she felt this good. It seems her skills haven't gotten rusty after all. Penelope believes they have prepared enough. She asks how Jurgen intends to carry all of that harvest back. She reveals that she has an enchanted bag with expansion magic. If he needs it, she could make a special exception and lend it to him. Suddenly, something interrupts the conversation. Jurgen asks in alarm, "Excuse me, what did you just say?" A purple energy spreads out before them. Penelope screams in terror, "A monster." Jurgen calmly explains, "Allow me to introduce her. This is my familiar, bitch." Penelope asks in confusion, "A familiar?" She questions whether Jurgen is a beast tamer. Jurgen replies, "Not exactly." He makes the introductions. "Bitch, this is your regular customer, Miss Penelope." Penelope watches the creature, still tense. She remembers something she heard at college. She recalls, monsters are naturally hostile toward humans. But on rare occasions, there are people known as beast tamers who are capable of controlling them. Penelope comments, "They say that simply having a familiar grants combat power comparable to that of a second-grade alchemist." She asks how strong Jurgen's familiar is. Jurgen replies, "She's not particularly strong." He explains, "As you can see, she isn't the combat type." Jurgen reveals, but bitch has a habit of storing things, so she works very well as a substitute for a bag. Penelope concludes, disappointed, "So she's not any more impressive than my magic." Jurgen confirms, "Of course not." Penelope sheds a tear of relief. Jurgen gives bitch a piece of candy. He thinks satisfied, "I finally got the chance to show off my skills." He reflects, the difference between a fourth-grade alchemist and an ordinary civilian has now become the difference between a fourth-grade alchemist and a beast tamer. Jurgen suggests that they move on to the next reward room. Penelope agrees, still sulking. The two of them continue together, climbing over the rocks in the labyrinth. Bitch gathers the chopped wood, storing everything inside herself. They reach a fork in the path with numbered signs indicating the different routes. Penelope checks the map and decides which way to go. The scene shifts to the city at night. An airship flies across the sky beneath a crescent moon. A busy station comes into view, with people walking between the railway tracks. Jurgen comments that Penelope has worked hard over the past 2 days. Penelope complains, dirty and exhausted, "I feel absolutely filthy, I want to take a bath." Jurgen notices that it is already late. He asks if her house is far from there. He offers, "I'll reserve a room for you at a nearby inn so you can get some proper rest." Penelope refuses, "That won't be necessary." Jurgen insists, "You already used an expensive alchemical catalyst because of me. The least I can do is show my gratitude, so please don't refuse." Penelope accepts, pleased. "Tilda, well, I'll gladly accept your gratitude." Penelope refuses again, "I don't need a room." She reveals, "I have a VIP membership at the Litchfield Hotel." Jurgen comments in surprise, "You really do have a lot of connections." Penelope asks if he heard her. She repeats, "VIP at the Litchfield Hotel." A century and a half of history with elegant architecture from the mid-British era. Ever since it opened, it has never lost its title as the best hotel in Nortalis. Jurgen recognizes it. That tower belongs to the Rosemore family. Penelope confirms excitedly, "Who in Nortalis doesn't know that hotel? It's right over there." The two of them head toward the hotel, but when they arrive, something changes. Penelope gives up, irritated, "Forget it, I'm leaving." Jurgen watches her in confusion, thinking that she really is impossible to understand. The scene shifts to nighttime at Jurgen's shop. He relaxes in his chair, relieved. He comments that there is no place more comfortable than a familiar place. Even so, it had been a long time since he had gone 2 consecutive nights without getting proper sleep. Jurgen couldn't sleep. It was another night of staying awake, looking after Penelope while she rested. He remembers his days of war when he conquered the demon kingdom all by himself. Back then, he could go an entire week without sleeping, fighting hordes of monsters throughout the night. Compared to being around Penelope and bitch, all of that now seemed like a distant memory. Back at the shop, Jurgen prepares for the next step. He calls Bitch and asks her to bring the ingredients they brought back from the Demon Kingdom labyrinth. Bitch eagerly brings everything over. Cinnamon and nutmeg appear first, then come neroli flowers and vanilla. Jurgen announces these are the spices that will give the cola its special touch. He rolls up his sleeves, ready to begin the preparation. Jurgen asks Bitch for her help once again. He promises to reward her with sweets.